Okay, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the invitation. And I really like basically, I would like to share my views about the way you can be more smarter in procurement. It sounds a little bit tricky because you are the experts, but I figure out some issues that, from my perspective, are really important to discuss with this audience. And the reason is because I'm a little bit biased. I'm not from the public sector. I worked, but my background is from the private sector. So I would expect that we could at least share some experience and discuss things that make sense eventually in the private sector. And from my view, it could also be implemented in the public sector. So that's the way I would like to approach this. And at the end, as I'm told, we have experience in Portugal working in the public sector, implementing the e-procurement. And so it makes a lot of sense at the end, and I left this to the end to give some space for discussion about the way we did it. And so overcoming some of the issues that we understood from the beginning that could be like the inhibitors for a good implementation. So that's basically my idea for this discussion. But from the start, I would like to show you the agenda. Basically, I would like to, before discussing the procurement and actually the situation that we have in Portugal, I would like to go further and try to go ahead with what should be the challenges for procurement. And actually for public procurement, because I think it makes a lot of sense to think not just because we have the directives and things that we are really obliged to comply with, but also with business models that could also make sense for the public sector. So some of the things that we are going to discuss are actually, I don't see any legal support or regulation for this at the moment. But obviously, I will expect that makes sense for the public sector to use, to apply, and then maybe we can find the right framework to support this. But I can't, obviously, with this audience of lawyers and experts to give their contribution to the way the business model could really be implemented. And the first issue, and I think has already been discussed a lot during the week, is about the procurement innovation. That actually is about supplier innovation. Because procurement innovation is much broader. You can have procurement innovation if you start implementing innovation processes and practices with your own team. You can start by having innovation labs. But the question is, the directives and all these frameworks that are supporting innovation for the public sector are very much focused on the supplier. And obviously, that's because it's much easier for the public sector to rely and to outsource part of the innovative solutions to the supplier base. It's rather difficult to have teams on board to develop and to investigate the best solutions for the public institutions. So it makes more sense to see what is going on the market, how can we really procure the more innovative solutions. So it comes a lot of discussion about who is more innovative, are the SMEs, how can we bring them on board, and questions that obviously come up when we try to understand the difference between what is the traditional, conventional procurement frameworks that we use all the time, and we had a very interesting experience in the public sector. We implemented at least 100 projects in public sector organizations in Portugal of e-procurement, and we also did a lot of training for suppliers, over 1,000 suppliers. So we receive a lot of feedback, and I understand clearly the mindset of the public procurer, in the sense that, and always when we're trying to make some procurers and train them, there's always the issue about you should specify quite well what we want to buy. Otherwise, it will be difficult for the supplier base to understand your requirements and to provide the right solutions. And obviously, it should be difficult for you to evaluate the different solutions. So it's another topic that I will go further in the e-procurement issue about how can we really have a lot of offers from our supplier base and have the possibility to make a very smart and fast evaluation of the tenders. Well, but coming back to the innovation, and yes, obviously it requires a different approach. We are not really going for the requirements because we are not going to specify what we want to buy. And I've heard a lot of comments during this week, particularly very important, and I took some quotes from Colin, and about his view about the public sector. It's not my view, okay? I really share, but it was his comment. Public sector is not making use of innovative SMEs. We have heard this before, and a lot of work needs to be done, but there are a lot of expertise to drive innovation. It's not just a matter of understanding what is innovation, how can we really make innovative solutions to drive forward the public service, to increase efficiency and whatever, is about also to change the mindset. And if we are really used to specify the requirements, it's very difficult for the large part of the procurers to understand how they can procure innovative solutions. And from my perspective and from the work that we are doing in this particular area, try to enhancing this innovative procurement of new solutions from SMEs, I think that it requires a lot for public procurers to understand how they could specify the problems, their needs. So it's not just about changing their mindset, it's to give them the tools and the expertise to clearly define the problems. And at the private sector, we are always talking about the business model. There are so many things that supported us when we want to go further and implementing different things. Why not providing the same approach for the public sector? Why not providing methods and tools that could support this more innovative procurement of new solutions? And it seems that sometimes, I mean, we find that very difficult to define the needs. And I was hearing you about the first panel discussing things about innovative solutions in Africa. You mentioned about the mosquito net and things like, I mean, obviously, I agree. I mean, we have to have like a model to identify how we should really promote this innovation. But I also think that we should spend more time trying to provide the means to identify clearly the needs. Why do you need a mosquito net? What is behind this? What is the rationale for this? Okay? Otherwise, the procurer will say, yeah, it's clearly innovative. So let's try to find a more or less expensive mosquito net or a mosquito net with other type of features. And now we are coming back to the first understanding of procurement, that is specifying the needs. Not the needs, excuse me, the requirements. So why do we need more features for the mosquito net? If probably the big issue is not the mosquito net. Well, that is basically our concerns when we are really trying to implement this. And that's why I believe that it could be really a smarter way of procuring things if for some of the purchasing items and solutions that we want, because I really believe that we should look at this as a portfolio of different solutions that we would like to buy, that for some, we need really to change our mindset and look for trying to specify really the needs. For the public sector, it makes a lot of sense to make this alignment between what are the needs and societal challenges, because otherwise we will say that we would like to innovate, but we do not have any driver for it. Or worst, we could try to innovate in areas that does not approach any value for the public sector. So again, is specifying the need, perfect, but try to make these alignments work. And sometimes when people ask me, oh, how can we break down these high-level objectives into something more specific because I really want to innovate? It's always a big issue. Okay? But there is obviously an opportunity to be more smarter in procurement. The other area, and before concluding with the procurement, where I will spend more time discussing this about the Portuguese experience, I would like also to reflect and give you my views about another topic that has been discussed about not particularly the Article 68, but the way I see the whole of life costing. Because actually, and I'm coming from the private sector, and it works for a long. This is not a big issue. For most industries, they accept this since the beginning. Now we are looking at the disposal costs. I worked in reverse logistics 10 years ago. It was a big issue. Now, it's really mainstream. Why should the public sector avoid this? Public sector are so responsible as the private sector. I'm not telling you that this is like the perfect article or the perfect framework, but at least create some awareness about the things that are responsible for the public sector. And you are very smart, and you are doing a very smart procurement just because you got the lowest price, the purchase price. That's because you are a smarter procurer? Not? No? Obviously not. So if you do not have awareness about the other issues that are important to complement this, well, it's rather difficult. Okay? So, I mean, this role is really crucial. And from my view of the directives, I'm really not an expert. I didn't have the time to go through in detail the directives, but it seems that they are very influenced by this life cycle assessment of the procurement. And if there is a reason for this, I believe that's because now we can be more smarter. Okay? And discussing things and proposals with the suppliers make us feel more comfortable in the way that we are responsible for the broader issues. Okay? The other topic that I feel that is quite important also, but again, I don't see any framework to regulate this kind of model, is what is now calling, a lot of people is calling it like peer economy or shared economy. I don't know if you ever heard of this. How many of you? Oh gosh, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's like, okay. Yeah. Yes, sure. I mean, but the question is, should the public sector also embrace this kind of model? Why is it working now and not before? It's because we have very good internet connections now. It's because we have plenty of social networks working now much better than before. Why? The implications are really huge. And imagine that you work in a public hospital and you want to purchase any equipment. What are your typical options for it? First, you can purchase the equipment, right? And the second, suppose that you do not have the money to purchase the equipment, how can you do it? You can rent, right? Sometimes, okay? These are the options. So imagine now that you got a third option, that is, you can use shared equipment. And in fact, we are in the capitalism, yes, of course. There are companies now working in order to provide platforms that enable public hospitals to share their equipment. Okay? If you are not using the equipment all the time, you can share. And some others can use. Okay? And again, I don't see any kind of legal framework to support this. But there are people that are doing this right now. Obviously, the benefits are not just about this mitigating high capital investments. That is always a big issue for the hospitals. But also be more rational in terms of when you are buying things. And this is like just an example about how you can really innovate and have a smarter procurement. And to conclude, and I would like to explain you also and sharing my views about the way you can be really more smart in procurement, using the procurement, using the platforms that are now available everywhere and that are supported by the legal framework that is being now implemented. And in this specific case, I will try to make some alignments about the work that we did in Portugal. And it may be important for you at least to take some conclusions and see if from our experience and our evidence, it could help you to implement your process. And just to give you some insights about, I mean, in Portugal, this is like mandatory from 2008 till the awarding. And I was discussing the awarding thing about the evaluation criteria, because in fact, you can use electronic platforms to evaluate the tenders. Obviously, it requires that you are very keen on defining the criteria, the weights, and we have models for this. And yesterday, someone discussed and shared his views about this, giving Portugal as an example. Yes, absolutely. But again, we are not doing this like paperwork. We can do this electronically. And in that respect, I think it makes a lot of sense. All the other areas, I believe that you are aware that it's going to be mandatory till the e-submission. What we found out is that it's much more important if we can go till the award phase. And so, just to eventually to give some topics for discussion, I would like just to mention some of the conclusions, I mean, some of the findings from the work that we did. And yes, I think it's very important creating this system to increase competition. Yes, absolutely. We realize that. And also because Portugal is a very open economy, you know. It is really funny because we have the highest percentage of how do I say, inter
Connectivity?
no, I mean between suppliers from different places in Europe. There is a transborder procurement, exactly. Exactly.
In Brussels, they call it transborder.
Yeah, I was really looking for the term transborder and the highest percentage. So it means that also the fact that everything is electronically really facilitates that. Okay? I'm not saying that is like a positive thing for our economy, but this, frankly saying, is a consequence of the system that has been implemented. Okay? And yes, we are facing a lot of competition, more suppliers per number of procedures, of course, and because for the procurers, it's also much easier now to ask suppliers to quote. I've heard here now a few minutes ago saying that it's difficult for the public institution, the organization, contracting authorities to have more suppliers because they will have more work for the evaluation phase, right? So it's like an inhibitor for the competition. But imagine that you have everything electronically. This won't be an issue for you. Okay? It's not really straightforward because it requires a lot of training and understanding about the evaluation model. Otherwise, you will have the proposals entering in the platform, and then for the evaluation phase, you should have to integrate this information into IRP system, or eventually do it manually, which is obviously terrible. Yeah? And so it comes along with basically the utilization and use of multi-criteria for the evaluation of tenders. That is something that we in Portugal are quite aware. I don't mean everyone, but a lot of contracting authorities are doing it properly. Okay? So I think it was really a good learning, and is really transforming and changing the shape of the procurement in Portugal. And obviously more transparency. I mean, you cannot imagine the type of questions that people ask at the beginning. If can the other competitors see my proposals? I mean, everything is going to a platform, but is safe? Is transparent? Can we really trust in the system? So many issues, but people now are realizing the potential and the benefits of using it. And so it's really, from my perspective, is really a plus. And in Portugal, we were very tough at the beginning when we were trying to assess the platform operators at the beginning, but now we have other issues. But at the beginning, in that sense, using cloud computing, cloud services, and all these technologies, well, as you can imagine, in 2008, there were a lot of people reluctant to accept this, and with many issues about security. Well, for the miners, and there are of course a lot of things that, from my perspective, we should try to improve. I would like to stress at least three, and one has to do with the regulation of the platforms. So everything is online. You must rely on the platform operators. It's rather tricky because they could really impose you services and fees for something that it was not supposed to be. And also, it's complicated for the supplier base, because if you decide to implement the system in one of these platforms, you oblige all your supplier base to comply with the platform. And at the beginning, the government decided that there should be like some free services for all. So it won't be necessary for a supplier to pay anything to reply to a tender. Okay? But at the end, we realized that all the platform operators were really trying to push for more paid services. trying to facilitate the work for the supply base. So it's a business, of course. And it's not wrong, obviously. The question was that sometimes they push too much. And they create some obstacles that, from our perspective, inhibit a little bit people to embrace this new approach. Particularly when they start to ask for the timestamps and other type of services that were at the beginning free for all, and then at a certain moment of time, they decided to charge for these services. The other issue has to do with the electronic signatures. And yes, since the beginning, when they started implementing these platforms, all these kind of services were embedded in the platform. At a certain moment of time, again, they decided to break this into different service providers. So there were some services already provided by the platforms, but the government decided to make like a private market for services like the electronic signatures and also for the timestamps, what was really a problem, really a mess for a lot of people that were already using these kind of mechanisms. But now the government decided to ask for certification for someone that was out of the system, a high-level, top-level certification for these services. So it creates a new market for other type of technologies that are really crucial for the implementation of the system. And finally, another big issue, and I'm always talking about the perspective of the contracting authority. I'm not mentioning the case of the suppliers, okay? So basically, there are a lot of things that we can discuss about suppliers, but this presentation is really focused on contracting authority. And then they have issues, obviously, in interoperability with the platforms. Everything that is electronic should have a clear conversation, and data should be seamless along the different systems, which is not the case actually. At the beginning, we had a lot of issues of integrated information that was provided by contracting authorities at the platform level into, for instance, the official journal, even the European official journal. Now, everything is seamless, okay? But Isabel Rosa, I think it was yesterday, she mentioned also some projects that the contract portal already implemented in order to create more interoperability between the platforms and also the contracts portal. That is really critical for the system in order to create more transparency. And another thing that this morning someone told and discussed, that is having data for monitoring the system. And it's like very, very, very interesting, you know? If everything is electronically, if there is a clear system integration of all the data, we can really figure out who is the smarter procurer, okay? Which is sometimes a big issue for many organizations. Just to conclude, I would like just to stress and to highlight 3 topics from my perspective are really crucial for this process and to eventually also to implementation in your organizations and countries. Education is really a key issue because we were talking about changing the mindset from specifying the requirements to the problem solutions when we want to procure innovative solutions. But particularly in this case, there was a lot of change management. It was really required to change the mindset of people. It's paperless completely, okay? And a different kind of relationship with the supplier base. You are not afraid of having more people, giving more offers, you know? It's completely different. It gives you a lot of responsibilities to engage with your supply base. So there are many other issues that are important for educating the procurer. The other has to do with technology, and I discussed this already, that is important that it works, really works. Otherwise, it will be a complete mess. It was not the case, fortunately, but there are also some issues that are important to streamline. And finally is, having a strategy behind. And this because we want to manage a different kind of portfolio for different kind of purchasing. Yes, absolutely, we can have more innovative solutions. We can have other type of purchasing and purchasing strategies for procuring specific items that can be supported by this kind of tools. And we have heard about, I think we are going to have a presentation about the auctions.
PPS.
Yeah, PPS. It's another good example that could be or should be part of this portfolio of procuring new things. Okay? And it requires to have a strategy to go ahead with procurement transformation. So it's basically my idea. Final key takeaways, from these 4 points, specifying the needs is something that is really important to involve the SMEs. I heard yesterday from the SMEs saying that this is very difficult for them to engage with this kind of processes, so they are not really able to be innovative with their proposals. And also, for the second topic regarding the cost, considering all the costs is always a key issue. It's not just for the public sector. And the third is to bear in mind that there are other models for purchasing, and eventually you should think about it and think about also the framework that could really support these kind of models. And finally, about the procurement is how you can really design a roadmap, because you have to create your own roadmap before implementation, and should be in line with the strategy. And also, I mentioned 2 topics that for me are very important. Is a reasonable timing for implementation. You cannot do it immediately after that you decide that it's the time, and we don't give any time for people to train themselves, to make the system work. You have to have a good time frame for this, a reasonable one. And also engage all the stakeholders, because at the beginning, if it's something that is mandatory, you have to comply. But it's rather, I think, from my perspective, is much better if you start engaging people from the beginning. So that's, sorry if I take so long, but it was, maybe I leave more time for discussion there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's thank you for that.